Jake and Fulton on a victory Monday if you are a Kansas State Wildcat fan. Madison Square Garden, get ready for the Little Apple headed to the Big Apple from one Manhattan to the other. K-State surviving and advancing. The Jayhawks, boy, Murphy's Law occurred the last 10 minutes of the game up in Des Moines. We will recap and go through everything NCAA tournament over the 4 days, which are some of the most agonizing, exciting, fun, angry. So many emotions go into the first two rounds of the NCAA tournament. We will get to all of that. So we will talk a little bit of Chiefs and free agency today. The Chiefs signing low-key a terrific free agent. And then a good one, but yet a confusing one maybe at the same time. We will get to all of that, plus the latest news in the NFL. A lot of tournament coverage, and that is going to be our list today. Your favorite tournament games this weekend. We will get to all of that coming up today here on this edition of Mic'd Up. Let us know how you watched the tournament, how you absorbed it, your thoughts on how the first two rounds have gone to get to the Sweet 16. Hit us up on our text line, 785-272-9429. Outside of Topeka, 785-272-9429. We will go with to the victor, go the spoils.
Yeah,
so
that's how the phrase works.
We're going to start with the Kansas State Wildcats.
Much more fun game to talk about.
Much more fun game to talk about. And when I look at what occurred yesterday, I think this season will now be remembered fondly for the Kansas State Wildcats for what occurred yesterday. And the reason why is we talked about it on Friday. K-State just has to beat Montana State. You beat Montana State, doesn't matter what happens against Kentucky. It's house money. You got to the tourney. You won a tourney game. Everything is gravy if you lose to Kentucky. If you beat Kentucky, which they did, now to me, this will go down as one of the more memorable seasons in Kansas State history. They're the two most recent ones that I remember, that most K-State fans remember, are the two Elite Eight runs. One in which K-State beat Kentucky, went to the Elite Eight, and then lost to Loyola. And then you had the year in which they went to the Elite Eight as a 2 seed and had that epic game, and then against Xavier, and then ended up losing to Butler in the Elite Eight. Do you remember those because of the way that they finished, and Jacob Pullen and Barry Brown? You know, you've got different things that you link with them. And this year, I think you will remember this one because of the turnaround that Jerome Tang has been able to do with this team that had 2 players on the roster at this time last year. And then you've got a memorable guy in Marquise Noel who is leading this team to the Sweet 16. And I think even if they lose to Michigan State, this is a year that K-State fans will remember from 2 of the worst seasons in K-State history, or the last 2 years under Bruce Weber. When you look at what they did in the Big 12, they were back-to-back years, one of the 2 worst stretches in K-State men's basketball history. And now, in a first-year head coach, picked last in the conference, all the way now to the Sweet 16. I really do think this will be a season that so many K-State fans will remember, because they started from the bottom and then they finished at the top. And that has nothing to do with the game. We'll talk about the game just a second, but just this entire team has an entirely fun vibe. They're a fun team to watch and to follow along because they're lighthearted. They have a good time. You can see they're jamming out to, and I know no one's going to know this unless you're under the age of 30. They're jamming out every single game. They jam out to the same song. It's a song by Lil Baby. And Coach Tang is feeling himself. And they're just, and you got people dancing and bobbing. They're just a whole, and I know this word gets thrown around a lot right now, They're a whole vibe right now. They really are.
And here's the thing, and that is what I think is a great way to encapsulate this. I've made all season long a big thing about the culture at K-State and how that needed to change.
Big culture guy, Fulton Caster.
Well, to me, especially in college sports, that's the number one thing you need for a rebuild. If you're truly going to try and take a program from destitution to being a top-tier program, the culture is what's got to get fixed. KU football and K-State basketball are the two best, most recent examples of it, where they just needed a culture change, and look at what's happened. Jerome Tang, I cannot remember what game it was. There was a game in which, I wish I remember the specific one, but he said during the middle of the game, he had to check himself because he was not smiling on the sideline anymore. He wasn't looking like he was having fun. He and his coaches didn't look like they were having fun.
Yeah, you're right.
And he said, we have to change that because he's like, that's what I want these guys to do, is no matter what is happening, all our basic core principle is we're having fun. We're just playing a game. And I think what we're seeing now and what the national stage is getting to see is that's all K-State is. Like, this isn't guys trying to put on an act to make themselves seem different. These aren't guys who are trying to feed off of doubters to give increased confidence. These aren't guys that are trying to be overconfident. This is just a team of guys and dudes and a coaching staff that just like to have fun. And that's all it is. And that's why it's so enjoyable, is that their energy is infectious because it's just nauseatingly positive in the best way. Like, I mean that in the best way possible, that Jerome Tang and his staff are nauseatingly positive because that's all they ever talk about. Even talking about other teams, it's always about the positives and the bright sides and things like that. And that's what, I don't care what team you actually are a fan of. You cannot watch this K-State team play and listen to Jerome Tang and not fall in love with this team.
And the way that they play, it helps that you got,
it's so fun.
In the heat of battle, they're down, and you got Marquise Noel flipping behind the back passes and between the legs passes behind him. You just can't help but just kind of smile a little bit when they're watching it. And the other thing, too, is America, and I think fans in general, like an underdog up until the Final Four. I don't think I think fans want to see better basketball instead of,
the plucky upstart.
Yes. And I look at this for Kansas State. The game against Kentucky, K-State is not a big team. We know that.
No.
I mean, they're five-man inside is David Guisan, who, by the way, is not a five-man. Naquan Tomlin he
might be 6'11" tall. He's about as thick as a twig.
Yes. And so they don't have, big body.
I mean, think about it. One of their two stars, I'm taller than.
Yes. They're not, the big bruisers. Now, Keontae Johnson is.
Yeah, Keontae Johnson is built like a linebacker.
But he's 6'6". Yeah. There's a difference. And Kentucky has got length on length on length, and they're Kentucky.
Yeah.
That is, it is the one of the four true blue bloods that goes all the way back to the very, very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
You got KU and Kentucky go back from the very, very beginning. Duke and North Carolina more towards, the middle aspect of it, in the 60s and 70s. And then you've got UCLA, who low-key is a blue blood.
Not talked about in that vein enough, but, I mean, their history is right up there with the rest of the group.
Well, and more so, like, obviously the history, but recently, Mick Cronin's taken, UCLA that went to the Final Four last year.
UCLA squad's a good team.
So I look at I look at, the people are cheering for Kansas State.
Mhm.
And the way that the game started, it was just Goliath versus David. I mean, it was Sheboy grabbing every single rebound, putting it up, putting it in, and Kansas State just fighting and plucking and gouging their way and just doing anything and everything that they possibly could against the big bad bully.
Mhm.
And finally at the end of the game, they got the bully. They got the bully where they wanted. And you want to talk about a team that does not worry about missing shots. And that is a credit to the coaching staff and the mentality of this team, is that they don't care about what has already happened. Doesn't matter. Short memory. They were 0 for 800 in the first half from 3. But
couldn't buy one.
But then at the end, they were wide open.
Oh, yeah, no, they were nowhere around, and they had the best looks in the world. Could not buy a 3-point bucket.
And then in the final 2.5 minutes, you're down by 4. Marquise Noel hits one from the parking lot. You're down by 1. Then Big 12-ish, Ish Masood, all he does is make big-time threes.
Yep.
Goes from a 1-point deficit to a 2-point deficit. Now it's 64-62. K-State's got the lead. And then Keontae Johnson hits a step-back 3, and Keontae Johnson hadn't hit a step-back all game. And they hit 3 consecutive threes. They go 5 of 9 in the second half after going 0 of 12 in the first half. And Kansas State just kept fighting. And that's a microcosm of this team and really of Jerome Tang. I'm from the mud. I'm out from the mud. The saying that, he only had, $30 in his bank account, and he spent all of his money in his bank account on some ribs to cook for Scott Drew to get himself a job. Like, that is Kansas State. You always garner the personality of your head coach to me.
Yeah.
Your head coach oozes what you are. Bill Self, look at Bill Self and his teams, okay? But look at what Bruce Weber and his teams. But Jerome Tang, they just kept fighting. And they hit 3 monster threes from 2 guys who have led them the entire season. It's been the Marquise Noel and Keontae Johnson show the entire year. And then you get Ish Masood, who's got the fortitude, the size of Manhattan, to take that shot. And it goes in, and then it helps. You have 2, 90% free throw shooters, and Desi Sills and Marquise Noel to hold off and get the win. Like, that game was such a microcosm of the program this year, of starting from nothing, build your way up, keep fighting, keep clawing, stay positive. Don't let the loss, hurt on you. Don't let miss shots be a big deal. Just keep on going forward. And I thought that was absolutely awesome that they were able to do that against Kentucky in this game. It was so much fun to watch.
It was, and I think you make a great point, because K-State, I don't know how, it's the fine balancing act of how much are they truly an underdog and how much they're, because they are 3, like they are a 3 seed. They are a higher seed.
They were a 3.5-point underdog for a reason.
But
we're going to get to underdogs here in a little bit.
And we will. But the best thing is, you talk about how, when we get to the Final Four and get later in the tournament, people turn from underdogs to they want to watch good basketball. The beauty of K-State is you get both. Like, they are strappy and keeping an underdog. Watching K-State is watching good basketball. Watching Marquise Noel play, I've said this numerous times, is the biggest joy I have this year, because he's so fun to watch play. It's great.
And I thought Jerome Tang has been excellent on the mic this year, even from his very, very beginning press conference to, and I'll still remember it. We're sitting here, we aired the press conference live. He goes, I didn't come here to rebuild. I came here to elevate. Mic drop. That's awesome. That is, you didn't even use the whole, we don't rebuild, we reload. I mean, that's
and the best part from Tang is it doesn't sound like corny canned phrases.
No.
It's just who he is.
And then this is what he had to say. You had a Kentucky media member ask him a question about what does this mean, to beat a tradition like Kentucky, to beat a team like this. And this is what Jerome Tang had to say. And for some odd reason, my computer's not going to play this. So that's unfortunate. And I don't know why my computer's not playing.
Jerome, how much of a statement is this for you in your program first year? Beat a program like Kentucky and you're going to New York to play in the Sweet 16.
Well, we have a program that's rich in tradition also. And like all those old dudes that played for Kentucky, they ain't coming back, right? Tradition does not help you if you don't get out there on the floor and play with some dudes. And we had more dudes than they did today. And that's what that was.
What a great saying right there.
Oh, yeah.
Anthony Davis, John Wall, Jeff Padgett, none of them, Jamal Mashburn, none of them dudes are coming back on the court right now.
Nope.
So you got a great tradition. So what? K-State does have a good tradition. Now, granted, it's in the 50s and 60s and 70s, but they do. But the thing is he's right. K-State, we talk about you got to have dudes.
Gotta have dudes.
Mike DeCourcy said the last team to win a national championship that didn't have an NBA player was who? Got to go all the way back to Indiana. You got to have dudes.
Mm-hmm.
And he's right. Keontae Johnson, Naquan Tomlin, and Marquise Noel, Desi Sills. They had dudes in this game. You got to have dudes. And the only dude that they had essentially in the second half was the Wallace kid. Jacob Toppin was a no-show.
Nope.
Sheboy didn't do anything the last half of the game. K-State had more dudes.
Yeah, simple as that.
And we say this all the time. If you've got two teams that are even and you think they go back and forth, who's the best player on the court? Always side with the guy who's the best player on the court, because 9 times out of 10, the guy with the best player on the court, maybe 9 times a little strong, but 7 to 8 times. Best player on that court was Marquise Noel.
Oh, yeah. He scored 23 points in the second half.
And it wasn't even close. Always ride with the best player on the court. Coming up, we got our weekend's takeaways and fails. We'll talk about the NCAA tournament. We'll get to KU falling to Arkansas. All of that, of course, our tournament coverage brought to you by Lewis Toyota here in Topeka at I-470 in Fairlawn. Takeaways and fails. All right, Fulton, I'll throw it your way first. What do you got?
This is going to be a very interesting and weird one because it has nothing to do with sports and it's all about just going out and doing things. I had a friend of mine coming to town this weekend. We hung out on Friday night and Saturday morning. One of the things we do is we go to a cocktail place in Lawrence called John Brown's Undergrounds. Great craft, fancy, out-of-the-wall cocktails. They just put out a new menu. This is my usual PSA. If you're going out somewhere and you want to, really enjoy yourself, never be afraid to try something new. I had a cocktail that was non-alcoholic that had...
So it was a mocktail.
Essentially. That had, kimchi as part of it.
I don't even know what that is.
It's a, Asian vegetable medley thing.
Okay.
Delicious. Should not have been as good as it was. Fantastic. This is my usual PSA. Go outside your comfort zone. You will find amazing things.
If we're going to go outside of the world of sports, why is it, and it's not just here in Topeka, it's everywhere. Everywhere. Our roads are awful.
Yes.
I was moving some stuff. I had to move a bed frame, box spring, a whole bunch of stuff, and I packaged it up in the truck that I was driving. And I thought, you know what? It's a bit risky to take it on the interstate. I'll just drive through town.
Yeah.
Every time, of course, you hit a bump, you think everything's gonna be lost out the bed of your truck.
Yeah.
It was like every 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Can we not do? I should have just gone on the interstate. At least those roads are smooth. It was terrible.
No, there are a lot of bad roads about where I live too. So no, I sympathize with, and as a man who has moved a lot, I also understand the idea of you got a thing loaded up, you're trying to make it smooth, and you hit every pothole in existence.
Hey, coming up, we're going to talk NCAA tournament and why you need a certain thing to go right, and you got to have a certain player on your team. We'll get to that, plus underdogs and spreads. How big of a wild tournament was it? We'll get to that coming up. Kansas Jayhawks falling to the Arkansas Razorbacks coming up to start the 1 o'clock hour. But do want to continue our NCAA tournament coverage. Brought to you by Lewis Toyota here in Topeka, I-470 and Fairlawn. Shop local, shop Lewis. From the text line, hope you guys talk about the Mahomes play too. I don't care where it came from or who's it named after. That was a great play. And I'm a KU fan. When they lined up, I was like, this is some Globetrotter stuff. Because that's what you see of the Globetrotters line up all like in a row like that. And it really was pretty interesting how, you know what, they basically set a pick play for Noel to just take a step onto the court, catch the basketball. I thought that was really, really good.
It's a creative way to make sure you get your ball inbounded.
Yeah, I thought that was really, really good. All of them starting out that way. What would have happened though if they all would have just like guarded him right off the top, like face guarded him? Do you run like a fade route?
I don't know. I don't know what the play call is there. Listen, Jake, it's very simple. I don't simply know what the audible packages are based on the current looks. What happens if you get the single high versus the two high shell versus the off coverage? I don't know what's in Tang's playbook.
Like, what do they do if they just played press man right off the top, right out of the out of bounds? What are they going to do? They can't set a pick play.
I can't remember who the team was.
They didn't know what to do.
I'm mad I don't remember who the team was, but another team this weekend did something similar with a late inbounds play. They did not run a bubble screen. They ran mesh. They literally just ran a football mesh concept,
Yeah.
and it worked.
Yeah.
I really don't remember who it was, but yeah, they lined the ball out of bounds. Ball was ready to go, and they just ran a mesh concept, and it worked. So sometimes you can run football plays on a basketball court. It does work.
Let us know your thoughts. Hit us up on our text line. And we have a couple sayings here on this show, Fulton.
We do.
Never too good for free.
Never too good for free.
Never too good for free.
Nope.
Never run option to the short side of the field.
Never. Not once.
Not
Please
once.
don't.
Nope.
Stupid.
Very dumb play. We have to add another one to the list. Guard play in March. If you don't have guard play. Now, can you advance in the NCAA tournament? Yes, you can. But the main reason why, if your team relies so much on a post player, that's a problem. And right now, to me, there's only one team left who relies so much on a post player that is still in the tournament. Because right now, this is supposed to be, ready? The year of the big man.
Yeah.
The big man bringing it back. You're right. In the regular season. Let's take a look at the best big men in basketball. He's the biggest, Zach Edey, Purdue Boilermakers.
The second ever 1 seed to lose for 16.
If your best player is a post player, you better have somebody who's a guard who's really damn good.
And
And
you need support.
And what have we said? We have said that Purdue is Zach Edey and a bunch of just they ain't dudes. All right.
No, they're just a bunch of guys, and more importantly, they're young guards too. Like they didn't know what they were doing.
And so that's why I had them getting. I mean, I figured the 1 seed would get past. I almost said, man, FAU. I want to pick FAU.
Did. And then you said, but they probably get past the first weekend. Neither you or I had them past the Sweet 16.
No, of course. So Zach Edey. Oscar Shibwe. Didn't even make it to the second weekend.
And put up gaudy numbers. He got his. But the things around him weren't good enough to overcome that.
Indiana. This was the easiest pick. There were a lot of easy games to pick yesterday.
Yep.
There really, really were. Okay. We're going to get to it. Creighton over Baylor. Easy is easy. San Diego State over Furman. Easy. Miami over Indiana. Trace Jackson Davis. Great player. They have no guard play.
No.
None. Zero. Michigan. Hunter Dickinson. Terrific big man.
Fantastic.
Yeah. How's that NIT bid going for you?
Yeah, it's already over.
What about the guy last year?
Yeah.
Who was awesome?
Rebounding machine.
Even in the NCAA championship game, he was awesome. Armando Baycott. Yeah, your program's too proud to even take an NIT bid because your guards who were good last year sucked this year. Caleb Love and all those guys. You have to have guard play. There was one team left to me who relies so heavily on a big man. And that's Gonzaga. Now, Gonzaga does have
some good guard play.
But it's not great guard play.
And I will go beyond this because I think you're onto something, but I think there's a few parts we're missing here. Because I think beyond Gonzaga, there's a couple other teams whose big mans are important, but they show you how to use a big man properly or what skills they need. Because Gonzaga and Drew Timme is a good point. Drew Timme ain't your prototypical point guard, forward big man. Drew Timme is talented in other ways and can do a lot of things than traditional back to the basket big men can do. So that's the difference there when it comes to Timme. Plus, Gonzaga does have some other guards and players around him that make that offense so good. UConn's best player is center. Adama Sanogo is a big dude, but Sanogo's athleticism and strengths help him mitigate things, and UConn has got some other real good players on the perimeter that makes it better. Look at Creighton and Creighton's good offense. Their usual best player on the court is Brian Kalkbrenner, a 7-foot center.
But Nembhard is awesome.
Agreed. But that's the point, though. Like, Kalkbrenner is really, really good. He's not a traditional center, and he can shoot. At the same time as well, they have Nembhard who helps out. Like,
and that's why
it's the way you do it. It's the balance thing.
You got to have, you have to have Tennessee right now is the only outlier right now who doesn't have a dominant guard. They're huge. They are absolutely huge, and they overwhelmed Duke.
Yeah.
Duke was a
they're up like Kamwa apparently became Steph Curry incarnate,
and Tennessee basically did to Duke what TCU did to K-State. Was they just shot the three terrific for one game and a one-game sample size. Duke was not ready for the fight.
No.
Now, you can't just have guard play.
No.
But if you have to choose between one or the other, give me guard play every damn day. And this is the reason why you just can't we've got great guard play, because Baylor is the perfect example of this.
All they have are guards.
But Baylor cannot stop.
No.
You and I could drop 20 on Baylor right now, which is mind-blowing that Baylor's defense is that awful.
Yeah, they can't stop anyone, and that's why, neither you or I had them getting past Creighton.
No. That was the easiest pick yesterday.
Oh, easily Creighton was going to win that game.
Was going to drop 80, and Creighton plays a little bit of defense. Baylor plays no defense whatsoever. You have to play defense in the NCAA tournament. Like, if you look right now at the teams who are left in the tournament, okay, the majority of them are very good on defense that are left. Tennessee, UCLA, Alabama, Houston, San Diego State. The top 5 teams in the defensive metrics are still left. Texas, excellent on defense. Creighton, Connecticut, Arkansas, still in there. K-State played much better defense. If you look at it, the top, what do we got here? The top 17 teams when it comes to defense in the advanced numbers, there's only 6 teams that are not. So 11 of the top 17 are left. And some of these I don't even count because they're not even in the stratosphere on offense. Like Rutgers, they didn't even make the tournament, so they don't count.
No, and then proceeded to get waxed in the first round of their tournament.
But you can't just be, I'm a great defensive team.
You got to have something with it,
I mean, you got to be. I mean, what is it? If you're in the top 17 in defense, and you are in the top 40 on offense, you're still in the tournament.
Yeah,
except for one team.
I mean, if you look at it,
Do you want to know what team that is? If you are in the top 50 in offense and top 17 in defense, everybody who is in those two categories, the only other team that's left, Arkansas or KU. And because they played Arkansas, who's a top 17 defense, but yet also pretty damn good on offense.
And that's the thing, is most of these teams, they show you have to have some level of a good defense. You have to have a great defense. So you have to be able to score in some capacity. Look at Iowa State. 7th best defense in the country per Ken Pom.
It's sucking off.
111th offensively. They can't. That was their thing in their match against Pitt. Was the defense did start to lock in, but they couldn't score.
And then offensively, let's flip it. Offensively, the top 10 defenses, right? Top 10 defenses, or beg your pardon, top 10 offenses in the country. Only 4 teams are left out of the top 10. That's
a bunch of those are home.
4.
They're all home.
Baylor, Iowa, Marquette, Missouri, Arizona. And you can even go further down the road with Purdue, Penn State. So you have to have guard play. You really, really do.
You truly do. Yeah, you have to have
so important
guards to make up for it.
So important.
And you have to be able to stop somebody. I mean, the worst. Do you know which team is the worst defense per Ken Pom left?
Princeton?
No.
Gonzaga?
Nope.
Who?
Miami. Miami is 108th in Ken Pom in defense.
And the only
Princeton's 96th.
And the reason why Miami is still in is because they played a joke of a team that has no guard play in Indiana.
They barely survive against Drake. Like
they should have lost against Drake.
Should have lost to Drake.
But Drake forgot how to play basketball when someone pressed him.
The fact of the matter is Drake's best player had his one bad shooting night of the year. Like, That's what saved Miami, is they ran into the night where DeVries had his one bad shooting night. Like, that was just unlucky for Drake, and they nearly won. And then they played Indiana, a team where, luckily, because of the advantage that Miami has with guards, with Nigel Pack and Isaiah Wong, we're able to outplay them.
Yeah, not a surprise.
It's insane. It also just does delight me that Princeton is the second worst defense left, which is fair because their defense is fairly okay, but not that great.
I hate to be the bearer of bad news for Princeton, but your run is going to come to an end because I think Creighton is going to stomp you.
I wouldn't be surprised. I would love Princeton to win that game, but the fact of the matter is, Princeton's here, and we'll transition to underdogs here for a minute. Princeton is here because all year long, they were a meh rebounding team. They were like, middle of the road. They could get it. Their last 3 games, they have apparently become the greatest rebounding team in the country. And which is funny, given the teams they've played.
Yeah.
Like, Yale was one thing. Like, that Ivy Championship game was a bunch of things. It was great. Arizona should not get out-rebounded by Princeton, but they did. Mizzou should not get out-rebounded by Princeton. They got ran out the damn gym.
Man, that was the worst performance of this entire second weekend. Was Missouri?
And it brought me so much joy.
Missouri, you got hit in the mouth. Like K-State,
they got punched by Princeton.
K-State got hit in the mouth by Kentucky, but K-State fought back.
Yeah.
Mizzou, nah, man, you threw in the towel early.
Mizzou got a right hook
Real
from a
bad.
bunch of nerds from New Jersey.
Yeah.
And it was hilarious.
Yeah.
But no, Princeton, I'm sorry, my Ivy League boys, you're probably about to die to Creighton. Yeah. And that happens to these teams. You're a 15 for a reason.
I want to talk about underdogs because to me, an upset, a true upset is anything that is 3 seeds different, in my opinion. Okay, I'm going to explain it to this. I don't think a 10 seed beating a 7 seed is a real big upset. Like Penn State beating A&M. That's not a huge upset.
No, not really. I agree with you on that. Yeah.
All right.
I'd agree.
8-9 matchups.
8-9 matchups can never be upsets.
Not an upset.
Never. Not once. Not ever.
4-5 matchups.
Nope.
I don't think those are upsets.
Nope.
I don't.
They are not.
Like Tennessee beating Duke,
No, that's not an upset that the 5 beat the 4. That's just the 5 beat the 4.
Yeah. They're
coin flips.
I need over 3.
You have to have a 4 or bigger seed difference.
Yeah. So,
which is what I will just add in here. Most things that try to do upset research, upset predictors are, their requirement is at least a 5 seed difference.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna go
4 still.
I want to go 4.
Yeah, 4 is fine.
So when you look at the difference in these upsets, okay, in the first round, there were only 4 of them.
Mm-hmm.
There's Princeton.
Yep.
Fairleigh Dickinson.
Yep.
Furman.
Mm-hmm.
And then Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
The Panthers. That's it. That was it. This has been a very chalky bracket when you look at the first round.
Yeah. That
was it. There were no other big upsets. There were no 5 versus 12s this year.
Which is really weird.
There were no 3 over 14s or 14 over 3s. There was 1 4 over or 13 over 4. That was Furman. We had a 16 and a 15.
Mm-hmm.
Now let's go to the second round. All right, second round. To me, Kentucky and Kansas State. Well, we're going to get
K-State's the higher seed,
and Kentucky was the Vegas favorite. We're going to get to the Vegas lines in just a second.
Mm-hmm.
There were only 3.
Yeah,
that was it. Princeton.
Yep.
Beating Mizzou because they were the 15 seed.
It's still fun.
Then you got Michigan State, who was the 7 seed, beat
over the 2 seed Marquette. Yeah.
And then Arkansas over KU.
Yeah, 8 over a 1, 8 over 1, 7 over 2s, 10s over 2s. Those are always upsets.
Those are upsets. And so just by seeds alone, this has been a very chalky
I mean, you can look at just the seed numbers we have left. In the South, a 1 versus a 5 in Bama and San Diego State. That's pretty chalky.
Yeah.
Then you have the weird 6 and 15. You go to the East, a 9 in Florida Atlantic is a little weird.
Yeah.
It is. But then you have a 4 in Tennessee, and then a 3 and a 7. That's a little odd, but still pretty much good there. Then you have chalkiest of chalky in the Midwest, a 1-5 and a 3-2.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's chalkier than chalk. And then you go to the West, a 3-2 and an 8-4. Like, you have a majority of your higher seeds still left.
Now, that to me has made it so where some people are thinking this has not been the the most upset minded. Now, some people will say, yeah, it has, simply because you had a 16 and now a 15.
Yeah.
This is 3 straight years a 15 has made it to the Sweet 16.
Yeah.
3 straight years. I want to go with the spreads, okay? Because Vegas had Creighton as a favorite over Baylor. The 6
Vegas
seed
knows.
was a favorite over the 3 seed.
Mm-hmm.
Kentucky was a favorite over K-State.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So when it comes to the spreads, Vegas does things differently. Here's the breakdown of spreads. All right. In 52 games that we have played already, and that's including the first 4, the underdog is winning. The Vegas line has the favorites are 25 wins, 27 losses, which also, by the way, is Vegas not damn good at what they do?
Yeah.
Vegas's whole hope is to be kind of middle of the road.
Yeah.
They're 25 and 27 with the spreads. That's incredible. But the first round, 17 wins, 15 losses. The favorite ended up against the spread. The first 4, 2-2. The big difference was the second round. Looked like, it's going to be a lot of chalk, right? The dog covered in 10 of the 16 games in the second round. Now, granted, some of those on some very lucky and unfortunate situations. If you had TCU and Texas,
I feel bad for every single Gonzaga money spread better.
that would be this guy right here.
I'm also a Texas spread better who's still very upset at Marcus Carr.
So, but if you think about this tournament, there seems to have been a lot more close games than there shouldn't have been, because the dog is putting up a lot of a fight. And even in some big spreads, the dog, like Texas Corpus Christi covered the spread. FAU covered, FDU covered the spread. A lot of lower seeded Princeton obviously covers the spread in this tournament. So that's why I think this tournament has a feel of, it's more of a fun, wild tournament, because the majority of these games have been very, very close, despite having some big spread numbers. And that's why you feel like, wow, this has been a fun first 4 days. I think that the first 4 days of this tournament were absolutely outstanding. And I would be interested to know if people found it more fun or more interesting due to gambling being legal here in the state of Kansas. I wonder how many people out there. I would really enjoy if you could shoot me a text and tell me if you had money on these games. Did you use FanDuel? Did you use another sports book? And did you bet on the games? Did that make it more interesting and maybe a little bit more wild and fun? I would love to hear, to see if
my experience more fun.
That it would be. So I thought the first weekend was an absolute blast. It really
was great.
It was. We got a lot more to get to. We're going to talk about KU. We'll talk Chiefs free agency. We'll get to your text. Let us know how you thought this weekend went. All of our tournament coverage brought to you by Lewis Toyota here in Topeka at I-470 and Fair Lawn. Jake and Fulton, hour number 2. Thank you so much for joining us on this Monday edition. Plenty to get to when it comes to the Kansas City Chiefs. One free agent signing that I'm really digging. A second, I understand it, but is there another kind of chess move for that from Brett Veach? We will get to that, plus the latest news in the wide receiver market. Could there be a veteran wide receiver heading to Kansas City? We will get to that coming up at the bottom of the hour. We will go to the weekend games. Everyone loves lists. Our 4 favorite games this weekend. We will get to that. Hit us up on our text line, 785-272-9429. Check us out on our YouTube page. Very simple, very easy. Sports on 580. Check us out. Hit the like button. But we are going to talk about the Kansas Jayhawks. All of our tournament coverage from KUK State brought to you by Lewis Toyota here in Topeka, I-470 in Fairlawn. I knew this matchup was going to be a difficult one. That is why I said I really hope Illinois wins. Did not like Arkansas KU in the second round. I personally believe Arkansas was the best 8 or 9 team seeded. I think Arkansas was better than West Virginia, Maryland, FAU, Memphis, Illinois, Iowa, or Auburn. They were the best 8 seed. No question in my mind. There's not no hesitation. And they also had the highest ceiling of any team. And when I look at this game against KU and Arkansas, I think KU is the better team. I do. This isn't like 2018 when KU played Nova. Sorry, Hawk fans. If you played that Villanova team 10 times, you're losing 7 of them. This wasn't like when they played Auburn out in Salt Lake. Sorry, KU. That Auburn team was better. And they got on an absolute heater. Took care of business. Okay? KU's a better team. But Arkansas was so much better the last 10 minutes of that game. And then that was the difference. And the Hogs were better yesterday. And that's what makes the NCAA tournament such a tough one and done situation. There was a lot of Murphy's Law for KU in this game. And Arkansas was a big reason for it. It was. Most of the time you can pretty much tell, did a team win the game or did they lose the game? For an example, Purdue lost the game to FDU, okay? FDU did not win that. Purdue was just so terrible in that game. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like they were so bad in that game. Duke, Tennessee. Duke was not about that. They lost that game. I don't think Tennessee won that game. Whereas a team where they just flat out won the game, San Diego State. They just flat out took it to Furman. They won that game. Okay? In this situation, I think it was about even. But the last 10 minutes was dominated by Arkansas, and I have come up with 7 different things that all went Arkansas's way from the start of the second half to the end of the game. Okay? All of these went Arkansas's way. Every single one of these 7. No Bill Self.
Yeah.
It's not the reason why they lost.
It's a factor.
It is a factor. Those two can be true. They both can be true. Norm Roberts is not the Hall of Famer.
Nope.
Bill Self is. Now, is the reason why Bill Self's so great because he has good assistants? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Okay. But no Bill Self. We know how good Bill Self is in game. That was a big deal. Number 2, Jalen Wilson made 2 field goals in the second half. And the last one that he made came at the 17-minute mark. KU was up 11. That is not a coincidence, folks, that the last field goal that Jalen Wilson made was a 3-pointer to go up 11 with 17 to play. He shot it from the field twice the rest of the game. Now, there's a lot of reasons for that. 1, Jalen Wilson needs to be a little bit more aggressive. 2, Norm Roberts got to dial up a play to get it to Jalen Wilson and emphasize it. Number 3, Walsh for Arkansas did a hell of a job guarding Jalen Wilson.
Yeah, he did.
Okay?
He did. Credit to him where credit is due. He did a great job guarding J. Will.
Number 3, KJ Adams was on the bench too long with 4 fouls.
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to risk it for the biscuit. He sat for 4 fouls for 9 minutes. Almost 10. How many fouls did he end up with? 4. That was a big factor because KJ was a big impact in this game. Number 4, Grady Dick had 3 points in the second half. He shot it 3 times.
He's got to let it fly.
Same thing. Got to get him the ball. He's got to be more aggressive. His teammates have to see that. And Arkansas did a nice job on Grady Dick in the second half.
They did.
Number 5, missed free throws. This is why I don't like the double bonus in the women's game. I like the 1-and-1. I like the fact that you get foul number 7, 8, and 9. There are only 3 instances where you get the 1-and-1. Because if you missed the first one, you didn't just go 0 for 1.
Basically went 0 for 2.
There's no basically about it. To me, you went 0 for 2.
Yeah.
Not in the stats, but you did because you didn't even get a chance. Whereas in the women's game, once you get to 5 fouls and a quarter, double bonus, you get 2 free throws. That first free throw, oh, no big deal. I got a second one coming. That's what I love about pressure. I love pressure because you can find out at the end of a game, did the pressure get to you? The most perfect example of pressure at the end of a game. Memphis against KU. Don't tell me that they didn't feel it at the free throw line. When they release it, you could tell. Marquise Noel at the end of the game yesterday. Damn, the rim didn't even move. And the one time it did, it trickled around a whole bunch. And because he's shooting up there so pillowy soft, it rolled right in. Pressure matters. They went 0 for 2 in 1-and-1 situations. So they went 0 for 4. Got to make your free throws. And then number 6, offensive rebound at the end of the game. Missed jumper, easy putback. They go up 2. KU, though, ties it. 2 free throws. Then the biggest play down the stretch. At the free throw line. Missed free throw. Hogs get the rebound. Put it up and in. Get fouled.
Yep.
Now they're up 3. All of that had to occur. And there's a lot of them. That's why I started off with, to me, the ones that affected the entire second half all the way to the very, very end. No Bill Self. Jalen Wilson didn't show up and didn't get involved. And that is a team effort. That is a Norm Roberts. That's a Jalen Wilson. That's his team affected by Arkansas. Same thing with Grady Dick. All of this had to occur for KU to lose by 1. That is how fickle this situation and this tournament can be. Arkansas, to me, is not the better team, but they were so much better 10 minutes to go in the game.
They were the best team for the final 10 minutes of the game, and that's all you needed. Because they kept it close enough for the first part. And we kind of knew that this was probably going to come, at least that this is going to be difficult. And KU knew it because athletic, physical, long teams have given them fits all year.
Look at the teams. Let's go through them. Tennessee.
That was horrible.
Texas.
Tough. Blew them out the door twice.
Arkansas.
Yep.
Like, that is the reason why that matchup to me was one that scared me to death for KU. And KU is in a situation where if they don't, perform well, they don't get to the Final Four, it's considered a down year. That's why I talked to, head coach Brett Bowd. He sat in this chair honestly a week ago today. And I said, do people put too much emphasis in the month of March? Yes, they do. KU was a 1 seed, lost 70% of their scoring, won the Big 12 tournament by essentially 2 games. And that's a great year. Great year. Jalen Wilson had the year that essentially Ochai did last year and Devontae Graham, in 2018. First team All-American. Consensus All-American. Unanimous Big 12 Player of the Year. Led his team to a 1 seed. The difference is that only one of them got to a championship. Like, Jalen Wilson, his jersey's for sure going to be up there in the rafters.
First team All-American.
First team All-American, Player of the Year. He is a national champion. That's the difference. This is why KU won the whole damn thing last year. Is the 3 best players on the court last year for KU were not Jalen Wilson. Like, the most impact, it was Ochai Agbaji, Dave McCormick, and DeJuan Harris. Sure, is really helpful. And Chris Ray, number 5, damn near.
Yeah.
Sure is helpful to have the Player of the Year as a senior on your team as a junior. Like that's the difference when we talk about dudes. This year's KU team didn't have as many dudes as last year. Last year, KU had Ochai Agbaji, certifiable dude.
Certified dude.
Christian Brown,
Certified dude.
certified dude. Dave McCormick, he's a dude.
He's a dude.
And he played like a dude.
Yeah, especially that's the thing. Dave in the postseason was a dude.
Jalen Wilson,
still a dude.
Still a dude. I mean, they had dudes.
Yeah. And that was going to be the difficulty this whole year, and it was easy to see coming with this KU team was.
I don't know if it's easy to see coming.
You at least knew the expectation, like you knew the odds of repeating were low.
Yes,
because they're already low in general. There's a reason we haven't really seen repeat champions in a long time.
Yeah, it's hard to replenish. Yes,
and so you knew that difficulty was going to be there. And then you just chalk up that running into a bad matchup. It's just hard. It is so hard to win these games.
If KU played Auburn, Maryland, FAU, KU wins. They win. And that's why we the number one thing about the NCAA tournament, one is matchups, and number two, guard play.
Yeah.
Matchups are so
how
important.
far you can go in a tournament always is somewhat predicated on who do you have to go through? Because there are some runs that are great because you didn't have to go through the teams that really could have given you fits. And there are some teams that are great teams that go out earlier than expected because they just ran into just the worst possible. This is a weird way to put it. But I think in a way, look at this year. Purdue was easily the worst 1 seed.
Yeah, by far.
By far, when you look at the other teams that were there.
Yeah.
Fairleigh Dickinson might have been the worst 16 for them to deal with because they're a small, fast, athletic team. Which they're big and lumbering. That was their problem, though. That's why they Purdue sucked in a terrible game playing against Fairleigh. But you think about it as well, though. Zach Edey, you're like, oh, Zach Edey's going to dominate. Purdue was always going to have an issue with any team that was fast guards because their guards weren't experienced to deal with it. And Zach Edey, as a 7'4" mountain. Like all mountains do, when they're dealing with the little pesky things, it's hard to deal with.
Well, not so much that. It also it makes me question the Big Ten. Why didn't you go with the strategy of throw 3 dudes at Zach Edey?
Yeah, and just make Purdue's guards beat you because
I don't
couldn't.
Understand that.
That isn't the perfect example, but every team has a stylistic weakness for the most part. It's how quickly does that stylistic weakness crop its head up. For Purdue, it was going to be one of the first 2 games.
Yeah.
Because even FAU was going to give them trouble with the way that they played. But FAU. And then for KU, it cracked them in the second game. A fast, athletic, physical team.
And so, real quick, looking at the upcoming games, to me, there are 2 games in which I am very intrigued by the matchup. Number 1, Xavier in Texas.
Yeah.
Xavier can score, man.
They can flat out put the ball in the hoop.
They can go.
Yep.
But Texas can defend. Texas is long. How does Xavier handle that?
And more importantly with Texas as well, when they get the shot going, they can really start to pour it on.
Texas and Xavier, 2 completely different teams. I
mean, fun.
Completely different teams because Xavier offensively, they're a top 7 offense.
Yeah.
That's how good they are. They don't defend all that well. And the other one, it reminds me of the Duke-Tennessee game because Tennessee is old, bunch of 5th-year dudes, and they are brawlers. Duke, a little bit more finesse. They are all young players. And that showed. Bama versus San Diego State. Alabama, number 1 team. They've got talent out the wazoo. That San Diego State team is a bunch of gray hairs.
Yep.
They are old, and they are strong, physical. They will take the fight to you.
Yeah.
Alabama, San Diego State, to me, is going to be an interesting game.
I agree with that.
Those 2 matchups, to me, I find to be the most intriguing when it comes to styles. That is, and then Gonzaga, UCLA, because UCLA doesn't have a great big man.
Yeah.
But UCLA's got good guard play, and that one should be a fun one, Gonzaga versus UCLA. So KU, they should have won the game. They
should have. They yacked it away.
They did not rise to the occasion like Arkansas did.
Yeah.
And a lot of those things there at the end of the game were the try to hold on moments.
Yeah.
The missed free throws, offensive rebounding after the end of the game. And then KU deciding to go all Coach Lapis and go for a 2 instead of the 3.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you need the 3, okay?
Yeah.
If you're down by 5 with 30 seconds to go, you need a 3.
Yeah, you do.
You got to shoot it at the point of no return. Great song by Kansas, but also a very point that you have to shoot the 3.
Yeah.
That was Kentucky's problem.
Yeah.
Kentucky. You can't go layup, foul Marquise Noel. You ain't going to gain any traction that way. At some point in time, you got to hoist up the 3 and hope it goes down. And you want to know what team did that? The Kansas State Wildcats. Down 4. Hell, we need a 3. Noel. Whew. Bottoms. You need it. Coming up, we're going to go with our top games for the weekend. Alrighty, everyone loves the list. Favorite games over the weekend. Now, this doesn't have to be, your teams or the teams you picked or the bets you won. Just the games that you
enjoyed watching.
Yeah. What do you got?
No. Number 4 for me. It was one of the first games of the entire tournament. Furman, Virginia was a banger. That was enjoyable. Was not fast-paced, but fun. It had a fantastic ending. I like good endings. So Furman, Virginia, I think was up there. That was really fun one this week.
My number 4, FAU versus Memphis.
God, that was fun.
Great finish at the end of the game. Great take to the hoop by the FAU. I thought he was going to punch it down. Yeah. Florida Atlantic. For the people complaining about, they didn't call timeout. They're not looking at that. Like anything split decision, I don't really have a huge problem with by an official because that's bang, bang. That can be difficult.
Yeah.
But FAU Memphis, great game.
Number 3 for me is FAU Memphis. Good little finishes Butler. Great comeback there by FAU, outscoring Memphis by 5 in the second half to get the victory. It was a fun game, tight throughout the entire contest. So no, FAU and Memphis, that was my third best game of the entire weekend.
My third best game of the weekend, I'm going with Furman in Virginia.
That was so fun.
P.A. Clark, what are you doing? You just played a game of 500 essentially. That one went back and forth, but the big time 3, oh man, that was great.
That was great. Number 2 for me, Kentucky and K-State was a great game. A lot of ties, a lot of lead changes, some great performances. Ends up with the bigger difference than you would think in a good, fun game. But man, that was a good, fun game.
I've got K-State versus Kentucky. This is crazy that we've got the same 3 right now, just one in a different order. I like the back and forth. I thought it was great. Kentucky got a big. K-State kept fighting. That was a fun game to watch. It really, really was.
Yeah, that's the best part as well, as you love teams to fight. Number 1 for me, the best game of the weekend was the last one of the entire opening weekend round. TCU Gonzaga was amazing. Every single minute of that game was awesome and fantastic and great back and forth. It ended in a bit of a different fashion than some people would have liked, but overall that game was pretty competitive. It was great back and forth majority of the contest.
Yeah, I only made the first half. I fell asleep.
Yeah, you missed a banger of a second half.
Yeah. No, the best game. It was watching Mighty Goliath try and try, and little old Fairleigh Dickinson. They were not Fairleigh Dickinson. They were everything Dickinson. They were mostly Dickinson. They were terrific.
They were fun.
And they shouldn't even have been in the tournament.
They shouldn't. They got a technicality.
This was awesome. Great win for FDU. Coming up, we're going to talk a Chiefs free agency next here on Mic'd Up. Welcome back into Mic'd Up. Jake Von Fulton Caster with you on this Victory Monday. If you're a K-State fan, K-State fans, you should be having a good time. And boy, how cool will this be for guys like Marquise Noel and Ish Massoud, who grew up in New York. Massoud in East Harlem, and Marquise Noel right there in the heart of the city. They've never played a game at Madison Square Garden.
It's going to be awesome for them.
And they get to play at Madison Square Garden. That's going to be our list tomorrow. Give me the basketball meccas.
Okay.
Like where do you want to play? You know, kind of like we've done it for baseball. I mean, the 2, 1 and 2, and I don't care what order you have them. It is Wrigley and it is Fenway.
Yeah, 2 oldest stadiums.
Like not just the oldest ones, but you know, like Soldier Field is old, but ain't nobody give a damn about Soldier Field.
That's fair. Yeah, there's old and then there's history to be a part of the
and there's just something about it where Fenway and Wrigley have both that. Yeah. Soldier Field is the second oldest NFL stadium. Or you could argue, I don't know, maybe Brendan will know if it's not because he's from, that area. I don't know if I think Lambeau is the oldest. I think. It is.
I truly don't know.
But anyways, doesn't
Either
matter because Soldier Field's a dump.
Yeah.
Ain't nobody care. Nobody's like, oh gosh, I can't wait to go to Soldier Field. No. The new Yankee Stadium. No, sorry, that doesn't have it.
Doesn't know the history of the old Yankee Stadium. Does.
Old Yankee Stadium's number 1.
Yeah.
But unfortunately,
I think it no longer exists.
I think it's a parking lot right now.
I believe it is a parking lot right now.
Like,
I believe it is a parking lot.
You know?
Yeah, no.
So we're gonna go with basketball meccas. You know? There was our list. How about that? You know? Just
comes together.
Spawned itself. How about that? You know? So we got that. Let's talk a little Chiefs free agency, shall we?
Let's do it.
The Kansas City Chiefs had 2 signings over the weekend. We're going to start one with a great signing. I am loving this signing. One, because I think this person is going to be a turnover-making machine. Safety Mike Edwards signs a 1-year, $3 million contract. We have no idea what the cap hit is yet. Might be $3 million. It might not. Depends on what it is. But for those of you who don't know, Mike Edwards is a ball-hawking safety that makes plays. This dude gets downhill. He makes plays. And he will be a terrific safety next to Reed and Cook. You need 3 safeties on your team, especially when you play as much nickel and dime as the Chiefs do. And the main reason why they do is because they are leading in games in the second half. What do teams normally do when they trail? They throw the football. You had Brian Cook play a lot last year at the end of the year, which I think 1 was out of necessity, but 2, kind of see where he was at. They let Thornhill go and they had Reed. But everyone that I talk to and have seen that say, you know what? Edwards in that position with the Chiefs, with the ball that's going to be in the air a ton, Edwards is a terrific signing for the Kansas City Chiefs. And he's very cost effective at just 1 year, $3 million. I think this is a great signing.
Yeah, it's a good signing. Helps out the safety rotation. It lets you to not put as much on Brian Cook as you might want to. Plus, again, with the way the Chiefs play their defense, usually the rotations, they use 3 safeties heavily. You needed a third one to come in there with the loss of Juan Thornhill and Deion Bush wonking as well. This is what you need. Now as well, you know, Najee Johnson was technically going to be your third safety, but he does so, you know, you don't have to thrust him into more roles than he needed to, and he can Najee can keep focusing on mainly just being a great special teamer, which he does great work, and that is important. And now Edwards and Bush and Edwards and Cook and, you know, Justin Reed can now all be a good 3-player safety rotation. It's a solid signing with what the Chiefs need and what they try and do. Mm-hmm. And man's got 7 picks over his last 3 years and 3 defensive touchdowns. That's helpful. That is very helpful.
I think this is a great spot to be in if you are the Kansas City Chiefs.
I would agree.
I really, really do. And I think with the defense that they are putting together, I would have been all right if they signed Edwards to a 2-year deal, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But Edwards is a 1-year deal. So I like that. I think your secondary now with Snead, McDuffie, Watson, Williams, and then the 3 safeties. Like your cornerback spot is set. You got 4 corners: Snead, Watson, McDuffie, and Williams. 3 safeties. That's 7 guys in the back. All right. Now your linebacker spot, it is taken care of now because of the signing that they just made with linebacker Drew Tranquill. He signed a 1-year, $3 million contract. Cap hit to be determined. We'll have to wait and see. Probably $3 million. Don't know. Drew Tranquill is this is a guy who fell through the cracks during this free agency.
Yeah.
And I think Tranquill just didn't want to play for the Chargers anymore. Otherwise, why would you not bring this guy back? He led your team in tackles a year ago. He was your green dot player, which means he had the microphone and the headset in his helmet. He was the one calling the defense. He had, and I have to double check this, I think he had close to 900 tackles. All right. He also had 10 tackles for loss and 5 sacks. He also plays in coverage very well.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what the Chargers are doing here. Because you're trying to tell me that the Chargers couldn't take and couldn't sign Tranquil 1 year for $3 million. I am very, very surprised at this. Because 1 year, $3 million is nothing.
Oh, no, not at all.
He had his best year. He was just starting to play and kind of get into his own.
First year as a starter.
And he was durable, but he also plays in coverage.
Yeah.
Now, part of me is like, okay, it's just a 1 year deal. I'm confused because you still have Bolton. You still have Gay. And you drafted Leo Chanel, who played a lot in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Well, now you got 4 linebackers, Bolton, Gay, Tranquil, and Chanel. I thought maybe, you know what, they moved, maybe they're going to move Chanel to edge. He's big enough.
No.
But that just doesn't seem right. He doesn't have the bend. You'd like a little bit more bend.
Yeah.
And I wonder if this isn't, hey, that's a good player. We only had 3 guys at linebacker. He gives us depth, and I think he is a much better cover linebacker than Nick Bolton.
And that's what this, like, looking at this and looking into it, that's what this all comes down to. One, the Chiefs were going to end up adding a 4th linebacker. They always carry 4 with Darius Harris being let go. They were going to get a 4th linebacker somehow. And the fact of the matter is, Drew Tranquil brings something to this team that they lacked last year, and none of these 3 linebackers excel at. Drew Tranquil can cover the pass. That is his best trait. He is an above average pass defender from the linebacker position. Like, that's why he's here, which I think is a smart move. And it's the Chiefs adding depth and shoring up a weakness. I don't know the amount of snaps he'll take away from either Willie Gay or Nick Bolton. I don't know what the plan will be there, because, you know, Nick Bolton played over 97% of the snaps, defensive snaps for the Chiefs last year. Never came off the field. So I don't know how much that would change, but he will be a guy who's going to end up forcing his way onto the field, because the Chiefs, with how teams in the NFL play in general, and it's like we mentioned with Mike Edwards, the Chiefs, because of the way that they end up holding leads for good chunks of games, they face a lot of passes. They face a lot of passing and a lot of passing offenses. Drew Tranquil is going to help with that, because that was a weakness. That was a weakness that got exploited on this team numerous times last year. Think back to the first Bengals game in Cincinnati. Like, there was a lot of talk. I mean, Nick Bolton and Willie Gay were picked apart over the middle of the field. That is shored up a little bit here by adding Drew Tranquil and what he can do. I don't know what that rotation is going to look looking like. I don't know what the snap counts are going to look looking like. But I really like the addition of Drew Tranquil, because the Chiefs needed somebody at the linebacker position who can cover in space, who can move in space, who has, you know, good speed, good physical tools. Because, you know, Willie Gay has some of those skills, but does still lack some of the other things in pass coverage that you'd like. He doesn't make some of those reads you'd like. Drew Tranquil, you know, maybe athletically and speed-wise isn't exactly Willie Gay, but he processes so quickly and reacts so well. It's a boon. It's a big boon for the Chiefs this year, and Tranquil's a nice depth signing that's going to improve this defense.
And the reason why I love both of these so much is that they're both going to play. They're both going to make an impact. And they're going to combine cost the Kansas City Chiefs $6 million.
And it gives
an incredible situation.
It gives the Chiefs and Steve Spagnuolo a lot of flexibility, which is kind of becoming the name of the game with this Chiefs defense, is a lot of flexibility, a lot of ability to mix and match and move around. Because, I mean, you got a bunch of defensive linemen who can play inside and outside. You know, that lets you really, you know, try to find matchups. You now got 4 linebackers, which all with some kind of varied skill sets. You know, Gay is pretty good in coverage, but his speed sideline to sideline helps you out so much. Nick Bolton, tackling machine, just on the field, immediately 10 tackles are coming his way because he just finds a way to do it all and processes so quick. Drew Tranquil, pass coverage specialist for this team out of the linebacker unit. Leo Chanel, addicted to running over people and beating the crap out of them as he hits them.
Mm-hmm.
All those things are useful. You look at the secondary spot. So many corners can play inside and outside. All your safeties can play in the box or in coverage. This Chiefs defense at every single level has now a multiple amount of players that can all play at different spots. And that gives Steve Spagnuolo a lot of options for this year.
And they're all athletic.
Yes, very athletic.
Tranquil can run.
Oh, he's quick.
And then Mike Edwards, everything that you see here, Greg Auman covers the Bucks and now the NFC South for Fox Sports. Had him on the show before previewing the Bucks game. He says ball hawk. That's the one thing you think about. He has had 5 interceptions the last 2 years, 3 returns for a touchdown. This is a guy who really can. I think the Edwards signing is fantastic. I really do. You've got 3 safeties now, and they're not pigeonholed into drafting anyone. They can go best player. Best player is going to be an O lineman, a wide receiver, or a D lineman. That's fantastic for the Chiefs. Coming up next, we're going to get to a topic that I wish I could get more invested in, but the timing is not right, and timing is everything. We'll talk about that next. In almost everything. Timing very important in my life. When I met my wife, timing, very big deal there. Okay. Shout out to American Airlines for not being on time and having crappy planes. I want to get involved I want to get into it more, but I just can't.
Mhm.
And that is the WBC, otherwise known as the World Baseball Classic. One, the players care.
Yeah, they do.
Looking at what the players put into it, they care. Trey Turner said that his home run was the best moment of his baseball career. He's won a World Series, by the way. And he said that was the biggest moment because he was on the Dodgers World Series team, right?
Shoulda, maybe. I honestly couldn't tell you off the top of my head.
He's really good, though.
Trey's great. No,
Yeah.
Trey is
I mean,
fantastic.
he's a starting shortstop for the
He has
team.
a lot of other accolades, and he's also managed to sign a $300 million contract. He has good things he's done.
Yeah. So Trey Turner.
Yeah.
Excited about that. You've heard of a lot of others and you know, Shohei Ohtani, what that means to him, and Yu Darvish, and you know the Cuban teams and the Mexican teams, the Dominican, Venezuela. The game between United States and Venezuela, from what I've been told, was excellent.
Oh, it was fantastic.
Excellent. The crowds have been excellent. Been terrific. I want to get involved in it more, but there's the timing is awful. It's absolutely awful. It's during March Madness. Now, I don't know if there's a way that they can change that or not, because the fan that baseball they've got you full.
I've watched pretty much nearly every game of this World Baseball Classic.
I have not. I don't even think I've watched a single pitch. And here's the reason.
Some good stuff, man.
Well, I'm telling you why I didn't. Okay, is I care more about March Madness.
Yeah.
One, because I think it's a better product, and two, it's something that I'm more invested in. The World Baseball Classic is playing at the exact wrong time. You cannot play that during the first weekend of the NCAA tournament, or even the second weekend. There's only so much time that you can invest watching sports.
Yeah.
And I'm going to watch as much basketball as I can because it's awesome. I love it. This is what you wait for. And so when that's over with, I'm not going to all of a sudden flip over and turn and watch baseball. Yeah. I'm just not going to do it. Even when my kids go to sleep, I'm done. I'm going to do something else because I just can't go to the next. But the people who've got families and schedules, and most of these games are late at night, which is a positive, but also a negative. I want to be more into it because you can start to see how much more the players care about it.
Yeah.
And baseball needs to use this because this is a positive thing for baseball. This is good publicity. Players giving their all, caring so much. Baseball owners need to start worrying about the future and not worrying about now. You got to play the long game.
Yeah. Right
now, baseball has a problem. They're not attracting enough younger, neutral viewers. Not enough people are getting invested in it. This is a way that you can get them invested, but instead they're whining and complaining when guys like, Diaz and Altuve get hurt, and now they're going to miss the year for their clubs. And of course that hurts them because they care what? About money. But you got to think long-term here.
You do. I've said this numerous times since the Classic has started. This is a great vessel for baseball as a game to be grown. Here's the thing. As the way things are currently constructed, there is not a better time to have this tournament.
And that's what
quite literally there is not. Quite literally, this is when it has to be played.
No, and I understand
there is
that.
One way you can move this tournament and allow it to be its own spectacle. You shorten the MLB season. You chop off April, and April's for the WBC. Season starts in May.
I don't think they'll do that.
And exactly, because that won't happen. This will always have to be when it's played. And it's still the right time.
And it makes sense because you lead into the season.
It does.
You build
it replaces spring training.
I get it.
This is the time. It cannot be played at any other time. I've had debates about this. It can't be played any other time. It has to be played right now. And I think they're doing their best to balance what they're doing. Is part of the reason they're having the game start so late. Is they're going for the primetime slot. You get all the other stuff during the day. You're trying to lessen your competition. The other part is it's just got to be marketed better because, and I've seen too many people with the injury to Diaz, injury to Altuve going, oh, why do you play or why do you let these guys play, blah, blah. Ask any single one of these players.
They want it.
This is the greatest memory that they're making for their baseball careers right now. Like, you should never tell a guy you can't go represent because this might be their only time they get to represent their country.
Because every 3 years.
It's right? Every 3 years what it likes to. And we haven't had one since 2017 because the pandemic happened.
Mm-hmm.
There are 2 guys on Team USA who were on the team in 2017. 2.
Wainwright?
I believe Waino and Arenado, I think. I know Arenado won for sure. But like there's 2.
Mm-hmm.
That matters. And so you can't, and that's my big thing is this event is so important for us to try to take it away because guys could hurt. Guess what? Diaz could have gotten hurt celebrating any other time. Altuve could get hit with his hand on his pitch, literally any at bat he plays. It is not heightened because of this tournament.
And I just look, it's such a great way to grow the
game. It is. And it needs to, it has some tweaks to be made, but this event needs to be highlighted because it's great for the game.
It is at the right time because it does lead into spring training. You can say, hey, we'll throw you this, we'll throw you this, we'll advance you this way. You'll get ABs and it'll get you set for the season. It is. You're just going up against
you're going up against March Madness.
You're going up against Goliath.
And like I said, the only other way you could make this not in March is if you lopped off April. And you can't do it. And you literally can't.
Because they're not going to give up money. That's
and I understand both sides, they do.
Yeah. That's frustrating. I wish I could get involved. I just not enough hours in the day. Coming up, we will talk about the Big 12 in the tournament. Monday, Jake Lamont along with Fulton Caster with you. We appreciate you joining the show. Let us know your thoughts. Hit us up on our text line, 785-272-9429. Check us out on YouTube, streamed live. Go to youtube.com. Type in Sports on 580. Very simple, very easy. Click on the image. Hit the subscribe button. Punch that like button. And you can also check us out. Very easy. You go to our website, which is as easy as it gets, 580www.com. And we are, boom, right there. Right there. The first thing you see is a picture of our ugly mugs. That's all you got to do. Click on it. Let us know your thoughts. Hit us up in the comments section. Let us know your thoughts that happened over the weekend on the hardwood. This isn't an overreaction, proper reaction, because we've got that coming up in just a little bit. But I don't think this is an overreaction. The Big 12 did not perform well in this tournament. And the reason I bring this up is the Big 12 had 7 teams make the dance.
Mm-hmm.
They've got 2 left.
Yeah.
That's it. At minimum, I thought 3 would be still playing. Either there's a chance for 4. I look at K-State and Texas. K-State, I don't want to say overachieved. I think they properly achieved.
Yeah.
Texas, that was expected.
Yeah, they should be here.
You should have beat Colgate.
Mm-hmm.
And you should have beat Penn State. And you did.
Mm-hmm.
Aren't you proud of me? I didn't reference toothpaste or anything.
Good job.
I think everyone else I think there are different levels of disappointment.
Yeah, I'd agree.
First, let's start with KU. They should have beaten Arkansas.
Yeah, they should still be playing. They should
You
be
know,
headed to Las Vegas right now.
It's a disappointing finish. And I don't know if it's a very disappointing finish, but it is a disappointing finish.
Yeah.
And still a good season. Okay. I look at TCU as a little bit of an underachiever, but I mean, you lost to a better team in Gonzaga.
Yeah.
TCU to me was they had the highest variance in anyone in this tournament. I could have seen TCU losing to Arizona State, and they damn near did.
Yeah.
They had to fight back and win it. And then I could have seen them losing to Arizona State. I really could have. And I could have seen them going to the Final Four.
Yeah.
I really, really could. It's a bummer that TCU didn't beat Gonzaga, and here's the reason why. Is this would have been a big feather in the Big 12's cap if a 6 seed, the team that finished 5th in the Big 12,
could take down.
Beg your pardon, 6
in the Big 12.
could take down a top 20 team.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
I get you.
And that's where I'm like, that's a bit disappointing because the Big 12 puffed up its chest and we're the best conference and we've got all these quad 1 wins and we can do this and all that. And then this is when you put up a shutout, you know? And TCU for 30 minutes of that game against Gonzaga held their own and then some. They didn't have the best player on the floor. Normally they do. Mike Miles is really good. But unfortunately, Drew Timme, who's 75 years old, but moves very well for a 75-year-old, who's been in college, I think he's got like 8 degrees, was better. He was the best player on the court. So TCU to me is the biggest kind of, not a disappointment, but the biggest what if and the biggest way to make the Big 12 look better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And I will say this as well, because I think there is to a level of this that the Big 12 did underachieve when you think about it. But I mean, the Big 12 also just ran into every team ran into a bad matchup. Like almost every single one of them.
But
one
you should be, but as a whole, if the Big 12, if we're puffing out our chest and we're the best conference, you gotta be able to win some of these
games. I will
games.
agree. I will also just say this: it isn't as if any one conference is dominating sending teams in right now, though. When we look at what the 16
Big
teams,
East,
they have 3.
Yeah.
SEC has 3.
Yeah, but the SEC's got a 14. No, not 14. How many teams are in the SEC?
16, 18, 20,000. I don't know.
But you see
like,
what I'm saying?
No,
like
I know.
East,
yeah, but like I'm talking about like percentage of conference is one thing, which is why it's always important. Like, but in that matter, I mean, the Big 12 still sat here and got 70% of their conference in the dance. Period.
I know, but
so. I get your point. I do, but let's look at the games the Big 12 had to play, though.
And that's why I want to get to that too.
Like that matters.
There are 2 teams that TCU to me losing. That's the bummer matchup.
Hey, that's a bummer, but Gonzaga is so good. There's no shame in that.
There's no shame, but that's the one where you got to win. That
and I will say, you would like to, but there's no shame in it. And also, TCU had that thing close all game.
Yes.
Like it isn't like they got ran out the gym. They fought.
KU is the underachiever.
Yes, they are.
They're the underachiever.
100%. They should have beat Arkansas.
Should have beat Arkansas. Then you've got 2 levels of bad.
Yeah.
West Virginia blowing it to Maryland. West Virginia to me is a much better team than Maryland. And West Virginia just
they had numerous 8-point leads in that game.
They really did.
They yacked it away.
And that was one where you go, man, because if West Virginia wins, then the Big 12 has 6 teams in the final 32.
Yeah.
And they would eventually lost to Alabama. That's why you never want to be on that 8-9 seed line.
Yeah.
So West Virginia, they just played bad.
Yeah, they did.
And that's a bad loss.
They blew it.
And then you've got Iowa State. And then Iowa State.
Not embarrassed.
Is there a word worse than embarrassed?
Let's go to a thesaurus.
Like here, you ready for this?
Dead serious.
This is the one word that I have that's worse than embarrassed. Okay, it's not disappointed. Okay, Iowa State in the game against Pittsburgh. That was pathetic. Like that's the word that comes to my mind in this matchup. Iowa State and Pittsburgh. That was a pathetic performance from Iowa State.
Yeah.
Iowa State scored 41 damn points in a game. And they had, and if I'd have to go back and look just to double check this, I want to say that they had 4 points scored in the second half until like the 9-minute mark. Because Iowa State had 23 points to start the second half. They didn't score their 26th point. Or actually, no, they didn't score. Let's see, they had 23 right at the half. Yes. They had 26 points until the 10-minute mark. They scored 3 damn points in 10 minutes in the second half. Like, that was pathetic.
Yes.
Like, that's the one where Iowa State...
They should be ashamed of themselves.
That was awful.
No, that entire Iowa State team should be ashamed of themselves for that performance.
And Pittsburgh is not good.
No.
They're not good.
No.
I hate to say that, but Pittsburgh is not a good basketball
Iowa State
team.
did not show up to the gym.
And Xavier just punked Pittsburgh.
And so those are, when we're looking at this as a conference-wide thing, look at the conference as a whole. To me, only real 2 teams suffered a bad loss. Like, look at that, like, only 2 teams suffered a bad, like, Baylor losing to Creighton's not necessarily a bad loss. Now, again, Creighton running them out the gym, kind of bad, not a good look, but and everyone knew that was coming because it was a terrible matchup for Baylor. Like, that was, we talk about matchups all the time. That was a terrible matchup for Baylor.
Yes.
It was a team that could match them offensively in firepower, but they actually knew what defense was. You know, that matters.
I think of the Big 12, you had 2 bad losses. One was a game where TCU had a chance to steal it. K-State and Texas took care of business. And then I look at KU and Baylor. Those were the tough matchups.
Yes, those were.
But you got to find a way. Like, that's why I look at it to send 7 teams to the tournament. And only one of them was a low seed, and that was West Virginia. Like, I was talking to Dan earlier today, Brennan. We all said, man, picking that TCU Gonzaga game, that might have been the hardest game to pick at the beginning of the day. So that's where I need you to find a way to win. I need UKU to win. I need Baylor to find a way to win. And that's what's frustrating to me, why I do, and I don't think it's a shadow. I think the Big 12 underperformed for being as good as they are. And am I succumbing to the March, all in with March? I don't think so, because I still think the Big 12 is the best conference. The Big 12 has got top to bottom. And that's what makes the Big 12 so good, is that the SEC's got 14 teams. Teams 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14 are not any good.
Yeah.
All right. They stink.
Yeah.
All right. Whereas the Big 12, you've got 1 through 10 can get you at any day. Ask Alabama.
Yeah, Alabama got their
Oklahoma.
ass beat by the worst team in the Big 12.
So I still think, and I also think it shows you how well and how good the Big 12 is coaching in league play, because they know each other so well. I think that also is a big factor in the NCAA tournament, as to, you can be good in the Big 12, but sometimes the way that your game translated, it didn't work out in the NCAA tournament. And to me, Baylor this year is the perfect example. Baylor knows the opposing teams in the Big 12 so well. So well. But they were not prepared for Creighton.
No.
I mean, are you trying to tell me that Baylor has not seen a good guard? Are you trying to tell me that Baylor has not seen, better, guard play equivalent to Ryan Nembhard?
Mm-hmm.
Kalkbrenner is a unique guy because he's 7 foot, but Big 12, they got a lot of big dudes as well. You're trying to tell me, Baylor beat Texas. Like, that's why I look at it that sometimes maybe the Big 12 knows each other so well, and they know what they're wanting to do so well that helps them in league play. And then in the tournament, it definitely showed, at least for 3 of the teams in Iowa State, West Virginia, and Baylor.
So here's my thing. I don't think you're necessarily wrong. I would not say you're wrong or that I wholeheartedly disagree, because I think there's a nugget of truth to that. The other fact is this, and this is where I go to March as a whole, and where I think it was great to have Britt Ballard on to discuss, do we, fixate on it too much? So I think we do.
Mm-hmm.
The most beautiful part of March is also its most difficult. It is a one and done tournament.
Mm-hmm.
It is a one time you go down, pack your bags, head back to campus, chill out. We'll see you in October.
Maybe.
Unless
you graduate.
But that's what it is. And because of that, teams with certain specific flaws, and more importantly, just one bad night, period, you go home. That's where I get the idea of the Big 12 puts 7 teams in the tournament. You want more than 2 to make it to the Sweet 16. You do. But winning 2 games in 3 days is not a walk in the park.
Only 16 teams can do it.
Truly.
I know.
And that's where I go to. We can try and say the Big 12 underperformed. I think it's just hard to say. For me, it's so hard to say, really. I think underperforming in March needs to be really reserved to very specific circumstances because of the nature of the difficulty of the event. Even teams that lose in the round of 64, where they don't win a game and they're out round 1. A lot of those teams are some damn good teams that shouldn't be hanging their head. They just unfortunately had their one bad night.
Now there's some.
Now there's some nuance to that. Some team, like West Virginia still is a team that went home round 1 that should be hanging their head a little bit because you had chances to win the game. Iowa State should be embarrassed that they lost in round 1, not just some fact of, you're a Big 12 team, you should win a game, but it's how they lost. If West Virginia had a competitive game back and forth, it's one possession all the way, and just the coin flipped to the other side of the side of it, and that's why Maryland won. That you don't hang your head about that. You ran into a team that played you really hard, and you just had a night. But when you blow multiple leads, that's when you get things. But overall, it is hard. The field is cut down dramatically.
64?
To go to from 64 to 16.
Yeah,
we do that in 4 days.
Mm-hmm. No,
I think we need to understand the difficulty in that, and not put so much pressure on these teams to be like, well, you got to win 2. It's really damn hard to win those 2.
I agree, and I think there's a little bit of both can be true.
Yeah,
but to me, as all I heard about from Selection Sunday was the Big 12 is the best. The Big 12 is the best. The Big 12 is the best. And sometimes you got to back it up. And the only way to back it up, the only way to do that is you got to get it done.
And I think you do. But to that, I will say these 2 things to that. One, the Big 12 unfortunately hit an issue with matchups, and then a bunch of their teams had real bad nights. If you look at these teams, how many of them had an uncharacteristically bad night? We can make fun of Iowa State for losing to Pitt all we want. That was also an uncharacteristic. Iowa State's offense is not elite. They're also better than shooting 12% for an entire half. That matters. Baylor had their flaws. But Creighton was a horrendous matchup.
But to me, like I said, I was not. That was the most money I've made on a single. I'm not stunned at that.
Yeah,
like
I know.
That's not a bad matchup, or that was expected to me.
Yes.
So that's why I look at that and I'm just thinking, you know, the only one who played honestly really bad. Baylor did not play bad. They played Baylor basketball.
Yeah, and just unfortunately,
offense.
Baylor basketball versus Creighton in that one game led to a loss.
And in the one and done situation, that's part of it. Just like in golf. Hey, guess what? I went out and golfed and I lost to so-and-so because I had a 9 on a par 3 because they had 3 balls in the water.
It happens.
But you still lost.
You do. And that's like my point is like they still lost. They still took the L, and that does matter. The other part I'll say is this. You can only rest on laurels for so long. The fact of the matter is the Big 12 has won the last 2 national championships. And as of now, they still got 2 teams alive to try and win it again. Like, is it unfortunate that we got from 7 to 2 so quickly? Yes, it truly is.
They really, and the reason why I still say that they underachieved, and I will go down. I'll almost die on that hill, because if you puff up your chest so much and you've got opportunities to get it done, then you got to get it done. Now, I think Texas has a tremendous opportunity right now.
Mm-hmm.
I think Texas, honestly, I think their toughest game is going to be against, I think they should beat Xavier or Houston. I don't think Houston's got the Jimmies and the Joes inside to hang with Texas. To me, if Texas doesn't make the Final Four right now with the route that they've got, I think that is going to be a big underachievement as of this moment.
Mm.
Same thing for Alabama. Alabama, you have got San Diego State, Creighton, and Princeton in your bracket. If you don't make it to Houston, Alabama, this is your opportunity. K-State, I mean, you're it's 1 of 4. And then Arkansas, UConn, Gonzaga, and UCLA, shoot, all those to me have 25% chance of all making it. Like, whereas I look at Bama and Texas, and I know they've got the 3 seed and a 1 seed still in the bracket, but I think they have got a terrific opportunity to make it to their first Final Four since TJ Ford in 2001 or something like that.
That was forever ago.
You want to talk about a franchise underperforming in basketball with the talent that they've had. But yeah, the Big 12, that was a little bit of that was a bummer weekend for the Big 12. It really was. Coming up, we've got overreaction, proper reaction coming up next here on Mic'd Up.
This is the beautiful hit of Feels Good by Tony Tones.
In the 1980s?
Probably. I also don't know the year.
It sounds like an NXS song.
The entire reason we have this bump is ever since Kadarius Toney's been with the Chiefs, I have to always, when I think of him, say Tony Tones. And this is the one Tony Tones song I know. It Feels Good.
That's got to be a 1980s song,
Oh,
right?
probably.
Well, let's look this up here.
I mean, yeah, look at when Feels Good by Tony Tones came out.
It's got a good beat. I like it.
Yeah, it's fun. Get you vibing.
Never heard the song before, but
oh, it's fantastic.
You know, we can go to the text line. Never mind. Our text line admitted they were wrong. 20% of the Big 12 made the Sweet 16, a higher percentage of conference members than any other conference. Whoops, wrong. Never mind. The Big East. How many teams are in the Big East?
That's a great question that I don't know the answer to, but
10?
I can find out. Oh, there's more than 10.
I don't think so.
I think there are. We're about to find out. I'm about to pull up the Big East. Give me one moment. I'm at the whim of how fast my computer can load pages. Our good friends in the Big East Conference. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 11. So you're really close, actually.
So they're 3 of 11, 2 of 10. So 3 of 11 has better share.
Yeah. And then the SEC has 3 of 20,000.
Yeah.
God, there's so many teams in the SEC.
14, isn't there? There's 14 in the SEC and the ACC.
Yep, 14 in the SEC.
Yeah. So they had 3 of 14.
Yeah.
And the Big 10 has 1.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Alrighty. Overreaction, proper reaction. All right. K-State has the best odds of getting to the Final Four in the East.
Of just those 4 teams?
Yeah, of getting to the Final Four in the East. K-State has the best odds of getting to the Final Four out of the East between Tennessee, FAU, K-State, and Michigan State.
Overreaction. Tennessee should have the best odds. And I get it, and I'm going to clarify this right now. I understand I am saying a Rick Barnes-led team should have the best chance to make the Final Four.
Y'all rode with Shaka Smart, and I tried to tell you not to.
Listen, I thought we were on the right part of the Shaka cycle. Don't talk to me about that right now.
That's on y'all.
When you look at those 4 teams and just team makeup in general, I think K-State and Tennessee should be your 2 favorites. K-State and their offense is great. And the way they're playing defense right now is very nice. That Tennessee defense is something else, though. And I just think that with the way Tennessee guards, the physicality with which they guard with, and the way they play, I think against K-State, I think that's going to be the Elite 8 matchup. Will likely be Tennessee and Kansas State. I think Tennessee should be favored in that matchup. Now, we're talking about if there's an actual percentage being thrown around here, like a 3 percentage point difference to me between Tennessee and K-State's odds to make the Final Four. But I think Tennessee should have the best odds of those 4 teams.
I'm going to tell you this right now. According to the Vegas numbers,
I assume Vegas probably has K-State with the best chance.
Right now, out of the East region, it goes Tennessee,
okay,
plus 120, Michigan State plus 270,
okay,
K-State plus 320. K-State right now is a 1.5 point dog
to the Spartans,
to Michigan State.
I mean, honestly, that's fair. Michigan State defends fairly well. They shoot 3-pointers at a crazy rate, at a high rate, and they shoot the free throw well. And I mean, they're led by Tom Izzo. And Tom Izzo is 10-4 in Sweet 16s. Like, coaching matters. That's where the Rick Barnes has a. That's why I'll be honest. That's why I picked Duke to beat Tennessee. I didn't trust Rick Barnes to get to a second weekend.
Michigan State is just a little above average in basically every category. Not elite on offense, not elite on defense, but they're not bad on offense and they're not bad on defense.
Nope. That'll be a close game. I think a close spread is what it should be between K-State and Michigan State. But no, I would agree with that. My overreaction, prep reaction for you also has to do with the Sweet 16, but now I think I know where your thought actually is at this. Texas has the toughest road to the Final Four.
I'm going to say that's an overreaction.
Mm-hmm.
I think the toughest route to the Final Four is any team in the West.
Okay.
Because I think Gonzaga versus UCLA is a dogfight.
Yep.
And I think UConn and Arkansas is a dogfight. And that is why I think one of those four teams is probably the closest, who has the toughest route. I think Bama, I think Tennessee probably, if you think about it, has the best chances to get to the Final Four. But if you put Bama and Tennessee flipped, let's say Bama's taking on FAU, K-State, and Michigan State, then Bama has the easiest route to the Final Four, no question about it. But I do think Creighton might pose a little bit of a problem. I just am a believer that Texas has both bigs and guards, and they're experienced and they're old. And that's why I think Texas has a few too many dudes than Houston. And I think Xavier doesn't play any defense.
No. Here's the thing. Here's what I'll say. And this is where my thought is on the Texas road. Xavier's going to be a tough matchup. I get the thing with Xavier and their defense. I understand. I really, really do.
Okay.
Xavier can put up points.
Yeah, well, they can.
And that always makes a team dangerous. And Texas defense is good, and their offense is good. The fact matters, though, is Texas and Xavier defensively, there's the differences and everything, but I just think that's still going to be a tough matchup. I personally think you are incredibly disrespecting and discrediting Houston's talent.
I might.
They got some dudes. And they can find. I mean, look at what they did to Auburn. And I get part of the thing with Auburn is Auburn also, their offense is so sputtery and stop-starty. They were down by 10 at the half. Houston was. They ran Auburn out the damn gym the second half because their dudes get cooking. And the longer this tournament goes, the more Marcus Sasser gets healthy. And we also have a best player on the court. Between Texas and Houston, there's an argument to be made. Marcus Sasser is the best guy on the court for a close game. So that's where I think the toughest road. I would get your argument out west because I think those teams are all a lot closer to each other.
Yeah.
But because I think, those are going to be the closer Sweet 16 matchups. But I think Texas, the team that they'd have to go through in the Elite Eight, I think is tougher than who anyone would have to go through in the Elite Eight on an overall talent level. Because, I get, winner of Creighton, Princeton has to go through Alabama and you go, well, that's tougher than anything. I go to Alabama. Sure. But also you got to take into account the team that they are. Yeah. Whereas given their own talent level. So that's just where I'm at with it.
I got you.
So that's where I go with, that line of questioning.
I think the West and the East are toss-ups.
Yes. West and East are complete. You could tell me any of those four advanced, and I'd say, sure. You could tell me FAU goes to the Final Four, and I go, sure. Tennessee has a really bad night, and so FAU beats them there. And
I'll say I think the East, not as much as the West, but if you told me Arkansas makes it, I'd believe you. If you said UCA, Gonzaga, or Connecticut,
the West is the biggest top-up. The West is truly, you tell me any of those four, they're going. The East is tiny bit different because I truly do think Tennessee at least gets the Elite Eight. But the West is truly I don't know, one of those four teams is going.
The West is all plus value. Plus 180 for UCLA, plus 185 for Connecticut, plus 230 for Gonzaga, plus 600 for Arkansas.
The only probable chalk is the South.
Yeah.
If Alabama does not steamroll through that.
Yep.
Alabama's toughest matchup is their first win against San Diego State. It's can they get through an old, really gritty defensive Aztecs team? You get through that, Creighton, Princeton, guys enjoy your game in the Sweet 16. because you are going to run into an absolute buzzsaw.
Who's in your championship game?
I don't want to talk about it.
Well,
It was Marquette and KU. Yeah. I don't want to talk about it.
You really decided to ride Shaka Smart to the title game?
Because I thought we were in the early part of the Shaka cycle and it'd be fine.
I can understand Shaka to the Elite Eight. To the title game? Shaka. Come on.
Don't talk to me.
I've
lost half my Final Four.
Hey, I bet on, because you bet on KU. Remember, I bet on the two teams that are in my finals.
What is your champion? I forgot what your national championship game was.
I've got my Final Four was Bama.
Yeah.
Texas.
Still alive.
Gonzaga.
Still alive.
Duke.
Not still alive.
No. So I got three of mine.
Yeah.
I think if Gonzaga beats UCLA, they're going to go to the Final Four. I think the winner of UCLA Gonzaga goes to the Final Four.
Here's the thing: if I had to pick a favorite out of that West right now, I'm going UConn.
Put a dollar or two.
I might put a wager on UConn to the Final Four. Make a tiny bit of scratch out of that.
Feel better because apparently you've had a tough weekend.
Buddy, I could not even begin to tell you what my weekend was.
I can tell you this.
I'm retiring.
There are a couple games that, I don't know if you've seen the movie because Lord knows you've not seen many popular movies.
Yes.
Have you seen Ocean's 11?
Yes.
Okay. When Danny Ocean is talking to Rusty Ryan, right when he gets out of prison, and he says, if you just play the normal odds against the house will always win. And Danny Ocean is very correct. But when you've got a chance to bet big and to take down the house, you got to do it. And I saw two opportunities yesterday that I thought I'm going to take down the house. And I took down the house. San Diego State over Furman.
Got that right.
Easy. That was San Diego State minus 5.5. Laughable. And Creighton over Baylor by 1.5. When you have a chance to bet big and get the house, you got to get the house.
The house is currently taking me to the cleaners and back.
No. Good news is that, all your clothes are going to be washed. Coming up next, we'll get to a recap of K-State's terrific win against the Kentucky Wildcats, and something that in the streets, it's a no-no. And I'm stunned that someone said this about somebody else on a basketball court. I'm stunned, but maybe I shouldn't be considering who it is. We'll get to that next. as I called them yesterday, the Purple Cats beat the Blue Cats. And it was a fun game, back and forth. Kentucky had a big lead. Kansas State came back, and Kansas State hit the big shots. They did. 3 straight threes, made their free throws, and then Kentucky had no answer. And then the post-game press conference came. I know not a lot of people around here are fans of Coach Cal. I don't like Coach Cal, but I don't dislike Coach Cal. Do I think he's more of a...
Oh, that you and I have a different thing.
I know.
God, I hate Coach Cal.
I know, but you're also a KU guy.
Fair.
There's differences there. I understand that. We got the way we look through, you look through crimson and blue color glasses, okay? I've never been against Coach Cal, but I've never been for Coach Cal. And he's got a little bit of the, the used car salesman, rep, and I understand that. And he seems kind of like a guy, who just kind of, the BS just flows.
Mm.
But that's a lot of coaches. But then Coach Cal in his post-game press conference said something that I am honestly surprised at. Because he knows what he's saying, because he's been around the media too much to not know what he's saying. And you can definitely tell that this is sticking in his craw, because you don't say this unless you are trying to dig at someone. Because in the basketball world, a grown man doesn't say this about another grown man, okay? Especially in the streets. Like if you're playing pickup basketball, all right? Where there's just a code that you just follow in the game of basketball if you're playing pickup. Like if I go down, when I was playing college football, I would play with the basketball team every now and then. I'd go run with the basketball team. I would get absolutely worked, but I had fun. Kyle Williams dropped I swear to God, 18 points on me in one game. And we went to 21. It was bad. But this is what Coach Cal had to say after the game.
We had some guys really fight like crazy, and then had a couple guys offensively not play their game the way they played all year. But that stuff happens in this tournament, and we did a pretty good job on Johnson, and he makes that 3, and the little kid makes the 3. How he make a deep 3. We miss a couple, and all of a sudden it gets out of hand, but.
If you call another grown man a little kid, you better get your hands up, because you're probably going to get smacked. He's to me, that is the most disrespectful thing. And I hate the word class, because it's not classless. That's disrespectful, but it's not just disrespectful on the level of a coach. But if Cason Wallace called Marquise Noel a little kid, you better get ready, because that's essentially calling a grown man. Marquise Noel's 22 years old.
Yeah.
You called him a little kid. Where I grew up, if you called someone a little kid, like on the 7-on-7 field, playing pickup 7-on-7 in the summertime, and I called you a little kid, get off, let the big boys play. I'm ready. I'm ready, because that person is better come get me. Now, Marquise Noel is probably going to take the high road in this situation, but Coach Cal knows that. The fact that he called him a little kid. So, and I'm gonna say this: Marquise Noel, if he would do the same thing, but in reverse, and he said this. Yeah, they played a great game, but that underachieving coach who's only won 1 title, who's considered the greatest, didn't coach his team up very well. That's basically what he's saying when John Calipari calls Marquise Noel that little kid. You know his name. You scouted him for a full 48 hours, John. You know who he is. You referenced Johnson's name. You said we held the Johnson kid. Marquise Noel is a third-team All-American, led them in scoring, I think it was like fourth in the nation in assists. And you can't say his name. You just call him a little kid. I'm sorry, but then Marquise Noel, if you want to call Coach Cal, Mr. Underachieving, Mr. Oh, I've got all these draft picks and lottery picks and have the best recruiting classes every other year, and you've won one national title, and you've been to what? And choked against in the game against Memphis as a coach. And the one time you did win is because you had a once in a generational type of player in Anthony Davis. Like, that is what really bothers me about this is, one, you referenced the name just previous. And in the streets, man, you can't be doing that. And he knows what he's talking about.
Yeah. Now
that bothered me so much more than what it should have.
It's a little, to me, it's the disrespect of it. It's unfortunate, but it's not surprising out of Coach Cal. Like, Cal's a jerk. He's always been a jerk. Like, and the fact of the matter is, it's once coaches stop winning, you start realizing the ones that the shine comes off, and people start going like, wow, they're like, man, he's turned into kind of a pain in the rear. No, he's always been that. You guys just ignored it because he was a winner. That's the thing. That's what it's been with Cal. Cal's bad personality traits have always been ignored because he's winning. Fact of the matter is, for Calipari, is in the last few years, he's had missed tournaments because his team was so bad. Last year, he lost to a 15 seed in St. Peter's. And this year, he loses to Kansas State, which is not a bad loss. There are other people trying to spin this as like, there was, Jeff Goodman for college basketball, framed as, how the, going down Kansas State, like, and they're like, oh, lose to K-State, just finish last in the Big 12. That's a terrible way to frame a Kansas State team that finished third in their conference. Like, this was a good team, so this isn't a bad loss for Kentucky, but it's just, the same crap that Calipari is always doing, He's a very disrespectful, arrogant jerk.
I don't think I've ever seen it, though, to the level of this.
Yeah, no, like,
he's saying that because he can't believe he let a 5'8" guard.
Yeah, he's surprised that the little 5'8" dude put up buckets. But the fact of the matter is, Marquise Noel at 5'8" is a certified bucket.
He is, and he's fun to watch.
Yeah, he is.
Honestly, I don't know if there are three other players who are more fun to watch the rest of this NCAA tournament than Marquise Noel. But that did, you know what? That really. And
here's the thing for me.
And he knows that.
Here's the thing for me. It would be less of a viewed as disrespect had he not a sentence prior called out Keontae Johnson by name.
Exactly.
If you're a coach scouting, you know best players by name. He could easily have said the Noel kid. Easily. Without a shadow of a doubt.
Man, I'm telling you.
But using that term it's disrespectful.
So we're going to call Coach Cal the underachieving, can't win the big one coach. That's
what we're going to like to call him, but I can't use him on air.
That, I don't know why, but that just, and I like trash talk.
Sticks in your craw bit.
But you can, Marquise Noel, if he wanted to drop the over or underachieving coach, then that's fine. And because to the victor go the spoil.
And this is where I go to, though. Player to player, talk all the trash you want. Coach to player, coach to other players. I think there's lines. You don't need to take shots at another team's players.
Oh, he didn't mean it like that. He didn't mean it. The words that you say do matter in that situation. That bugged me. So that was what a fantastic finish. Coming up, we'll wrap things up with the mic drop. With the mic drop here on Mic'd Up, Fulton, what do you got?
It's very simple, Jake. Princeton ran Mizzou out the gym. It was the greatest thing I saw all
Does that
weekend.
help you feel
Yes.
better?
Yes.
Okay.
As a guy who, for some weird reason, has become an Ivy League hoops dude, getting to watch an Ivy team run the one team on this planet that I actually hate out the gym to go to the Sweet 16. Oh, that made me feel so much better for the KU loss. Oh, it made me feel so much better. I'm still loving it. I'm still smiling.
The head coach means so much in college. And if that doesn't show you how much it means with what has occurred here in this state, with Lance Leipold and Jerome Tang, you got to get the coach. That's so
Gotta do
important. Coming up, we got 580 Sports Talk. Brandon Dan, have you. We'll talk to you tomorrow at noon.